Let's talk about governors. All of whom are popularly elected, serve as the chief executive officers of 50 states, 5 commonwealths, and territories. As state managers, governors are responsible for implementing state laws and overseeing the operation of the state executive branch. As state leaders, governors advance and pursue a new and revised policies and programming using a variety of tools, among them executive orders, executive budgets, and legislative proposals and vetoes. Governors carry out their management and leadership responsibilities and objectives with the support and assistance of the department and agency heads, many of whom they are empowered to appoint. Although governors have many roles and responsibilities in common, the scope of power varies from state to state in accordance with the state constitutions, legislation, and tradition. Governors are often ranked by political historians and other observers of state politics according to the number and extent of their powers. So let's talk about who's running. Our current incumbent is Jay Inslee, and he has been governor since 2013. Before that, he was a Washington House representative from 1989 to 1993, and he was a U.S. House representative from 93 to 95, and then again from 1999 to 2012. For his platform, he is focused on jobs, education, clean energy, and building a Washington that works for everyone. His 100% Clean Energy for America plan is a 10-year entirely clean energy action plan designed to decarbonize vehicles and buses, new commercial and residential buildings, and power and electricity for Washington State. In May 2019, he signed a law committing Washington State to reduce carbon emissions by 50% by 2030 and 100% clean energy by 2045. Also in May of 2019, he signed an expansion of his 2017 sanctuary state law prohibiting state and now local authorities from asking about immigration status or place of birth, unless directly connected to a criminal investigation, and prohibiting both local and state prisons from complying with voluntary immigration holds requested by federal authorities, or from notifying federal authorities when an immigrant is about to be released from their custody. Local and state authorities are also broadly prohibited from sharing immigration information about people in custody with immigration authorities except under a valid court order or where required by law. Jay Inslee's homelessness platform is to include a supplemental budget that includes a significant amount of investment to bring vulnerable people inside, with a variety of services to move homeless individuals into stable housing. The budget invests over $230 million over 4 years for supportive housing, rent assistance, diversion services, transitional housing for homeless youth, and creating new shelter capacity. In 2015, Governor Inslee led the effort to secure the largest single transportation investment in state history. This $16 billion bipartisan package addresses critical maintenance and safety needs around the state, provides more than 200,000 jobs, and funds projects that relieve congestion, improve freight mobility, and provide more clean transportation choices. In January of 2018, Governor Inslee announced $1.2 million to provide legal services and representation to immigrants and refugees with no other financial sources. As far as defunding the police, Jay Inslee announced in June in 2020 that he would create an independent statewide task force to address policing across the state of Washington. Our second candidate for Washington State Governor is Loren Culp. As a U.S. Army soldier, Culp was the honor graduate for his class of combat engineers and honor graduate of the Non-Commissioned Officers Academy for Leadership. He was a sergeant in the world-famous 101st Airborne Division and the 2nd Infantry Division serving under President Ronald Reagan. According to Culp, Washington has 3 state budgets operating, transportation, and capital construction. The operating budget is the largest, accounting for about $55 billion every standard 2-year budget. The transportation and capital construction are much smaller. Combined, they account for less than half of the operating budget. As a result, we must trim state spending. Trim the state budgets, and these adjustments don't have to be drastic. We can adjust to lower current tax receipts by trimming back to 2017 or 2016 spending levels. Culp believes the permitting process in Washington needs to be simplified, streamlined, and made more rational. We want to maintain a clean and safe environment. However, agencies have been written so many sections of the WAC related to issuing permits that the process has become nonsensical. It needs to be reformed. According to Culp, as governor, one of his first priorities will be to reform the permitting process in Washington state. Get rid of these needless duplications and delays, restore common sense to relevant sections of the WAC. These are his solutions. About homelessness, drug addiction, and crime, Culp says Washington doesn't have a homelessness problem. It has an addiction and mental health problem. People who deny this plain truth are usually pushing self-interested agendas. On taxation, Culp believes the best way to avoid regressive taxes is to stop raising taxes, period. And going forward, we should look ways to make state taxes flatter and fairer. His stance on the local environment. Fish, Wildlife, Environment, and Natural Resources measure WDFW's performance by a simple set of questions. Are there fish in the water? Are there deer and elk on land? Are the sport hunters content? Are commercial fishermen content? If the answer to any of these 4 questions is no, then the WDF isn't doing its job, according to Culp. Culp believes in reducing government overregulation. He wants to reform the permitting process, as he said multiple times, and get rid of the needless duplication and delays. And about the state budget process, he's still working on his economic plan. He lists solutions as stop spending. When asked about his plan for reducing a $9 billion funding hole, he said, "You don't just keep spending. The state can't just keep taxing the citizens. We're taxed way too much right now." And that is about as much as we know of Lauren Culp.